This year, WNBA players have gotten exactly what they wanted. Caitlin Clark has essentially missed the entire season, and the WNBA has suffered the consequences.
The WNBA is staring down a full-blown crisis, well beyond routine damage control. Caitlin Clark, the breakout sensation who almost single-handedly pulled the league into the national spotlight, may not return this season. Her absence has sparked widespread unease, executives scrambling to protect hard-earned momentum, players worried about losing relevance, and fans heartbroken at the thought of games without their biggest attraction. Clark isn't just a star, she's the league's golden goose, the engine behind record attendance, soaring TV ratings, and unprecedented buzz. Now, with her future this season in doubt, one question looms large: can the WNBA sustain its rise without the player who ignited it?
Fortunately, I'm starting to get this gut feeling that we might not even see Caitlin back on the court this season, and that might actually be. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court, and just yesterday she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing, so they changed it from a game time decision to her being.
The warning signs have been mounting for weeks. Caitlin Clark has already missed 19 of the Fever's 32 games, sidelined by a series of soft tissue injuries, left quad strains, left groin setbacks, right groin issues, and more. Adding to the unease is head coach Stephanie White's guarded tone, offering updates that are vague at best and ominous at worst. No timetable, she repeats. We're taking it day by day. Translation: there's no definitive plan, no assurance of when, or if, the franchise cornerstone will return. For the team and its fans, it's a steady drip of uncertainty that's eroding optimism and replacing it with anxious, restless doubt.
No return to practice. She's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running, with her all her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance. To do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moves, but not into practice yet.
Now, not into practice yet. That is obviously a negative as far as how soon Caitlin Clark will be back, because she will be in practice before she returns to the court. I would guess at least a few practices before she returns to the
The Indiana Fever signing of veteran point guard Odyssey Sims to a hardship contract is less about adding depth and more about emergency damage control. With backup guards Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald already out for the season, the team is leaning on a 33-year-old journeyman simply to keep the roster functional. Moves like this aren't made when a star's return is right around the corner, they're made when reality sets in that the road ahead will be long, uncertain, and filled with survival mode basketball. It's a clear sign the Fever are preparing for extended life without their franchise centerpiece.
This is what the Indiana Fever organization's been doing way too much. They dangle Caitlin Clark like a carrot, and we're all rabbits trying to get it. And then last minute, they'll let you know, oh, hey, Caitlin Clark's not available. Midday or something like that while everybody's traveling to get to the arena. Then you get to the arena, she ain't there.
If you've enjoyed the ride, stick around, but here's the reality for fans. Many didn't just watch Caitlin Clark casually, they built their basketball passion around her. She inspired vacations planned around Fever games, jerseys proudly purchased, and living rooms transformed into WNBA watch parties. Entire households became loyal fans because of her presence on the court. For these fans, it's not just about missing a player. It's about losing the spark that brought them into the game in the first place, making her absence feel personal, emotional, and far more than just a box score.
I'm wondering, why did the Indiana Fever and Stephanie White decide not to come out and say, hey, she's not practicing. She's not going to be playing in this game. And this is why I've got a problem. Because there's gambling implications here. All right? There's gambling implications, and there's the implications of we've got a nationally televised game on ESPN. We want to sell as many tickets as possible And by the way, charge the most money we can get gate revenue, yada, yada, yada.
Fans are glued to their screens, clinging to any shred of news about Caitlin Clark's return. Instead, they're met with head coach Stephanie White's carefully worded but unsettling updates. Clark still hasn't practiced and is limited to full court running at full body weight. For the hopeful, it might sound like a step forward. For the realistic, it's coded language meaning she's nowhere near actual basketball activities. Each vague report chips away at optimism, replacing it with the sinking realization that her return could be much farther away than anyone wants to admit, and the wait is growing more painful by the day.
Can't wait until Caitlin Clark is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Drake, great job, Lexi. Scott said, have patience. At least several more weeks. Now, whoa.
The panic gripping fans is both justified and intense. While Caitlin Clark has missed time before this season, each new setback feels heavier, more ominous. Earlier in the year, her absence sent ticket prices plummeting, some dropping as much as 71%, like Chicago Sky Games falling from $86 to $25, with others losing over half their value. At that point, fans at least had a timeline, a glimmer of hope to hold on to. Now, all they have is uncertainty, vague and repetitive updates, and a creeping fear that something far more serious is keeping their star sidelined, a possibility that threatens both the Fever's season and the WNBA's hard-won momentum.
Maybe it's just me, but there seems to be a massive decline in mainstream interest in the WNBA this season. Last year, there were so many stories in the WNBA, it was hard to keep up. Over the past couple of weeks, outside of Airborne Wiener, there's really been nothing to talk about. Think about it. What is the biggest storyline right now?
What makes this situation especially troubling for the WNBA is how much of its 2025 success hinges on a single player. Caitlin Clark isn't just a star, she's the league's entire solar system, with marketing campaigns, TV contracts, and attendance projections all revolving around her. Without her, WNBA games average 549,000 viewers, a decent figure, but nowhere close to the 1.26 million that Fever games draw when she plays. She doesn't merely move the needle, she is the needle. Now, that needle may be damaged. Speaking on Sue Bird's podcast, Clark admitted, "I've never been through anything like this," describing her injury battles. For a player who had never missed a game due to injury before this season, the setbacks are as mentally draining as they are physical. The real twist? Clark revealed she feels enormous pressure to return, driven by a sense of responsibility to the fans and the attention she's brought to the league. A weight that could complicate not only her recovery but also the league's future if she's rushed back too soon.
Being active and playing 4 games and then not, and like not feeling the best, and then like frustrated of like how hard I worked in the off season, and then like all I do is rehab and like continue to do this process. And just like trying to trust that the best I can. And obviously there's really frustrating days, and there's days where like it's a little bit easier and like you're very, very motivated and like you're close to the finish line of getting back and being back. And then like it's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30, like go try to play well. Like it's hard.
The Indiana Fever's latest roster moves reveal far more than they're saying publicly. Bringing in veteran Odyssey Sims isn't a routine depth signing, it's a survival tactic. When your franchise cornerstone has missed more games than she's played and you're resorting to hardship contracts just to keep the team competitive, you're not planning for a quick 2-week recovery, you're bracing for a much longer absence. The tragedy here extends beyond wins and losses. It's the danger of building an entire league's momentum, marketing, and financial projections around a single player, only to watch that foundation begin to crumble. The WNBA poured its entire offseason into amplifying the Caitlin Clark effect, rolling out targeted marketing campaigns, reshuffling schedules, and moving games into cavernous 20,000-seat arenas to meet the unprecedented demand she created. Those same venues, once buzzing with energy, now feel empty and muted in her absence. The warning signs are already stark. When Clark missed the All-Star game in Indianapolis due to injury, viewership plunged 36%, a staggering drop given the event was staged in her adopted hometown. That's not an anomaly, it's a market correction that lays bare just how dependent the league has become on her star power. If her absence stretches into months, or the entire season, the WNBA won't just lose games. It will face a harsh reckoning in relevance, revenue, and the fragile momentum it worked so hard to build.
The Indiana Fever go out and pick up Odyssey Sims, a former second-team All-WNBA player, somebody who just as recently as June 1st this season dropped 32 points on the Phoenix Mercury.
The psychological toll on Caitlin Clark's fellow players is hard to overstate. Many who spent months dismissing her impact, going so far as to rank her 9th among guards in All-Star voting, are now confronted with half-empty arenas when she's not on the floor. Charles Barkley labeled it petty jealousy, and he wasn't wrong. That envy has now backfired spectacularly, as those same players face the reality that their salaries, national TV exposure, and overall relevance are tied directly to the very player they tried to downplay. More troubling, however, is the WNBA's handling of the situation. Clark is a generational talent who shattered attendance records, set historic viewership marks, and helped push the league into profitability, yet she's been run into the ground physically. It's a red flag pattern pointing to overuse, poor recovery protocols, questionable training management, or a combination of all three. Regardless of the cause, the outcome is the same: the league's most valuable and marketable asset is breaking down in plain sight, and the consequences could be devastating for everyone involved.
What's going on in Indiana is that I feel like a lot of these people in the front office, a lot of these people up in Indy for the Fever do not care for Caitlin Clark for whatever reason. You know, Scott Atkins could be one of them. I'm not saying that he is, but it's looking like he don't care for Caitlin Clark. We know clear as day that Stephanie White has been looking in certain areas not to be feeling the Caitlin Clark effect. I don't know, but this stuff is definitely looking concerning because it's showing us that could there be more to her injury and they're not being transparent.
Let's be real, when a team says no timetable this deep into the season, it's almost never a good sign. In professional sports, it's often code for preparing fans for the worst-case scenario. Stephanie White's repeated lines about taking things day by day and focusing on Caitlin Clark's long-term health might sound commendable, but they're also exactly the kind of statements you hear when there's real doubt about a player's return. The signs of urgency are everywhere. This is bigger than a losing streak. It's about the possible loss of the one athlete who brought unprecedented national attention, filled arenas, and made casual sports fans care about the WNBA in a way no other player has managed in decades.
I mean, it's not my first time just coming to a new team and coming in and just being me. So the biggest thing is just doing what I do best. Playing defense, playing hard, doing whatever the team needs. Obviously, I know they've been down with the injuries. Prayers up for Sid and Ari. Love them both. But like I said, I'm excited to be here. And I'm not going to do too much, but whatever coach tells me to do is what I'm going to do and have fun and enjoy my team.
The harsh reality is this: without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA risks slipping back into the margins as just another niche sports league with minimal mainstream pull. The numbers are undeniable. Viewership drops by more than 50% when she's not playing. Ticket prices for her absent games fall by up to 70%. Merchandise sales stagnate, and social media engagement collapses. Clark isn't merely the league's brightest star, she is its marketing heartbeat, the central figure driving its momentum. The most painful part is the effect on the fans who discovered basketball because of her. For many, she was the entry point, the reason they bought season tickets, organized family trips around Indiana Fever games, and converted friends into WNBA supporters. Instead of packed arenas buzzing with energy, they're left with costly tickets to games featuring names they barely recognize, and a product that feels stripped of the magic, connection, and urgency Clark brought. Her absence isn't just a roster gap, it's a vacuum sucking away the league's momentum, relevance, and the hope it had finally ignited in a broader audience.
And that's why Caitlin Clark is so great, because Caitlin Clark is the magnet. She's the magnet, the needle. I'll say magnet in this case, she draws a big audience. And with that big audience, you learn about the other teams by watching the Fever. And since they play each other so many times, and there's only 12 other teams they play, why'd I have to watch the other teams for? Seriously, why? I don't find the other teams that interesting.
The ripple effects of Caitlin Clark's absence are becoming impossible to overlook. Arena attendance for non-Clark games has remained stagnant despite months of hype about WNBA growth, and television ratings for other matchups are only slightly higher than last year's figures. Even the Golden State Valkyries' much-anticipated debut drew decent crowds but fell far short of the Clark-driven hysteria the league has grown accustomed to. Fans' anxiety is entirely justified. Clark has stated she won't return until she's 100% healthy, and for a player who's never dealt with recurring injuries, the mental toll is likely as heavy as the physical. Hardship contracts for backup point guards and coach Stephanie White's repeated emphasis on long-term health are not signs of an imminent return. Instead, they hint at a sobering reality, that the franchise's cornerstone, and the WNBA's most powerful draw, may not take the court again until 2026. For a league that has built its momentum, marketing, and relevance almost entirely around her presence, losing Clark for that long could derail the surge in popularity it has fought so hard to create.
Caitlin Clark should not be thrown back into any mix if she doesn't have significant practices under her belt before she goes into game speed. You can try to simulate game speed as much as you want in practice. You will never be able to. Game speed is game speed. There's also a lot more adrenaline, all of these different things pumping when you're playing in front of a sold out crowd that the Indiana Fever do every single night. If I'm their coach, she needs to practice for at minimum a week. At the minimum, she needs to be doing everything in practice for at least a week before you throw her back in.
Fans remain trapped in a state of uncertainty, endlessly refreshing social media for any encouraging update, dissecting every practice report, coach interview, and medical note, only to find no real progress. For many, Caitlin Clark wasn't just another player, she was the reason they started watching basketball at all. Now, they're faced with the unsettling possibility that she may not return this season. The WNBA created this reality by building its brand, marketing campaigns, and momentum almost entirely around her star power. Without Clark, the league risks slipping back into its old struggles, half-empty 4,000-seat arenas, television ratings that barely surpass those of a strong college matchup, and a sharp decline in national attention. The Caitlin Clark effect has always been about more than her scoring, vision, or leadership. It was about her ability to lift the entire league into the broader sports conversation. Without her, that growth narrative grinds to a halt, the hype dissipates, and the WNBA is left confronting an uncomfortable truth. Its newfound relevance rests on the shoulders of a single athlete, and without her, the gravitational pull keeping fans engaged begins to weaken almost immediately.
Stephanie White was saying that she's not done anything with the team. Like, she's not even shooting around with the team. Like, as much as we're hearing certain things, I just don't know. I don't know. Like, let's just say several more weeks. Let's just say, for argument's sake, she's out for 3 more weeks. Three.
The million-dollar question no one dares to ask is this: what if Caitlin Clark never returns as the same player? What if her injuries are far more serious than publicly acknowledged? What if the WNBA's Golden Goose never takes flight again? The anxiety is real, the stakes massive, and the clock is ticking. Clark's potential season-ending absence isn't just a setback for the Indiana Fever, it's a looming existential crisis for an entire league that wagered everything on one transcendent star. Every marketing strategy, broadcast deal, sponsorship pitch, and attendance forecast was built on the assumption she would be there, healthy and dominant. Without her, the WNBA risks losing not just momentum, but its newfound relevance in the national sports conversation. And with no certainty about her recovery, the league now faces a grim reality, that their all-in bet could either cement their rise, or send them scrambling to redefine themselves without their brightest, most bankable star.